Hi everybody, my name is Andrew Lay, and today I'm going to walk you through my project titled Risk Assessment of Cryptocurrency Assets Using Blockchain Analytics and Machine Learning. Basically, my project explores how we can assess risk in the cryptocurrency world using things like blockchain analytics, external intelligence, and machine learning models. More specifically, I'm going to be focusing more on the data side, so in terms of like data analytics, databases, data structures, that was where the majority of my work was. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So, in terms of the introduction, one of the most concerning issues that's occurring within cryptocurrency and blockchain markets is a type of scam called a rug pull. This is basically where fraudulent projects disappear overnight, taking investor funds with them. Our project basically tackled this challenge head on. With the guidance of our corporate sponsor, Garaj Sangha, and mentor Akshay Kumar. With their help, we were basically able to develop the technical foundation to spot suspicious activity, analyze it, and start designing a framework for future risk modeling. This work, in turn, helped us not only gain deeper insights, but also laid a robust framework for future applications in fraud detection, market surveillance, and regulatory transparency. Moving on, we're going to jump into a little bit about the basically the three primary areas that I worked on throughout this project. So jumping into area number one, we have blockchain training and simulation. So as a group, we basically began our work by making sure we truly understood how blockchain operated, not just conceptually or through a textbook, but practically through actual application. In order to do this, we first started by creating a blockchain simulation like within Python that would actually mimic how real blockchain handles transaction over time. So with this in mind, we basically built fake data that simulated transactions, linked data, and even validated those underlying records. Each block basically held its own hash, its own timestamp, metadata, and references to the previous block. This in turn gave us an in-depth view of how blockchain ensures integrity, and it helped us build the SQL schema that we needed in order for our live blockchain data to be implemented later on, which I'll explain more in area 2. So we basically stored our synthetic blocks in an SQLite database, queried it, and then validated that logic held, and I'll show some visualizations here shortly about that work. This exercise also made sure that our team really just had a foundational knowledge base in terms of blockchain structure before dealing with the complexities of an actual blockchain network. This work helped us not only gain deeper insights, but also laid a robust framework for future applications for the type of work that we're trying to accomplish. So moving on to slide 3. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the blockchain data extraction as well as the SQL structuring and storage. So from simulation, we moved to reality. So we basically connected to a source called BlockCypher. They have an API that allows us to download real Bitcoin transaction data. Specifically, we just chose some March for my work. We chose March of 2025, just arbitrarily, just because we knew that there'd be a full set of data. Basically, we parsed these blocks that were required by looping them through thousands of transactions per block, cleaning the data, converting the Satoshis to Bitcoin, and then actually calculating transaction level statistics. We then examined total transaction volume, average size, largest transfer per block, etc. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of that underlying data that we were able to pull from these Bitcoin. Parsing this data not only tested our technical skills, but it really gave us a clear sense of real-time blockchain behavior, and in turn allowed us to build a robust framework for future applications in fraud detection. In terms of the SQL structuring and storage, once we had the data, we obviously needed to make it usable. So I built out SQL databases and SQL tables that allow us to house and store some of the block level features of these real blockchains that we're pulling from BlockCypher's API. These include things like the table that you see in the far right, so things like block ID, the number of transactions, the largest transaction that occurred within a block, the average transaction size, fees, timestamps, and a bunch of other ones. These were just some of the high-level ones that I wanted to address. And then if you look at the photo in the top right, here's some of like the metadata that we're basically pulling in terms of like a given 256-bit hash. Moving on, after we were able to, successfully pull in blockchain data, we wanted to take it a step further. We wanted to make this data usable. So we designed. So not only did we design SQL tables to house this blockchain data, we also created SQL tables that could basically integrate with the current ones that we have now. So obviously blockchain data alone isn't enough to detect fraud. We wanted to explore how real world geopolitical events might trigger suspicious activity in terms of fraud. So we turned to OSINT, which stands for Open Source Intelligence, and basically found a data set containing airstrikes that are occurring in the Ukrainian war by Russia. So if you look at the photo here, basically, again, just like a ton of metadata about airstrikes that are occurring across the different parts of Ukraine. So yeah, how this works is that we basically took this data, we cleaned, filtered, and narrowed it down to March 2025 to match our data that we were pulling for Bitcoin. By matching these attacks, we would then by cleaning up this data for these attacks, we would then match it with our blockchain data to basically determine the following question: do sanctioned nations turn to crypto as financial pressure rises? This idea basically came from a couple of different articles that we as a group had read that reported increased usage in certain blockchains such as Tether during conflict zones by sanctioned entities like Russia in this case. This work basically helped us gain deep insight into the robust framework for like regulatory transparency and to also determine more like fraudulent activity within blockchain and cryptocurrency. So moving on, we have our synthetic event modeling. So basically, in order to explore the hypothesis I was talking about earlier, which to summarize, is there a correlation between these Russian airstrikes and given activity for a certain blockchain? We basically created these synthetic event windows around each airstrike. So basically we took the airstrike data that we found and we created event windows, so one occurring 3 hours before, one occurring during the airstrike, and then one occurring 3 hours after, to take a look basically at all the transactions that are occurring for a given cryptocurrency. For each window, I basically computed aggregate transaction behaviors, and I tried to look for statistical anomalies or spikes. So rather than proving causality or correlation, this is more of just like a proof of concept in terms of like how global conflict could correlate with unusual on-chain activity within a given cryptocurrency. In the end, we were able to generate 75 synthetic event-aligned data sets that will support future machine learning training and risk analysis for our work. Yep. Moving on to slide 7. We have our technical results. So just from a high level that you can see from the table here, we were able to successfully parse 2,233 unique Bitcoin blocks. We were able to successfully extract and analyze over 4.4 million individual transactions. We aligned 25 airstrike events with our March blockchain dataset. And we created 75 clean labeled synthetic event records while also constructing 2 well-structured SQLite databases that I mentioned earlier. So like that MarchDB and then the Bitcoin database, or blockchain database as well. So obviously these aren't just technical outputs. They represent clean, reliable foundation for financial crime research, real-time blockchain risk scoring, and compliance monitoring. Moving on to the next slide. We have our audience transformation. So, obviously that was a ton of information. So I think it's really just important that we just take a step back to just kind of understand this from a high level. Before starting this project, many people, including myself, viewed blockchain data as messy, unstructured, and hard to interpret. Um, you know, yeah, just a general sentiment. Um, Many assumed that crypto activity during war sanctions was too complex or inaccessible to analyze. And then after basically conducting my research for the semester, we can see now that blockchain is not only transparent, but it's very trackable, and we can definitely feel more empowered about regulating bad actors within decentralized finance. We have the tools to make sense of it all, and we can apply pressure to potential fraudsters by exposing patterns within their behavior. In terms of implementations or implications in future work, the question is what's next. Sorry, the question is what's next. So obviously, these clean data sets that we've created will feed into the machine learning models designed to predict rug pulls and suspicious wallet clusters. And our next hope is to integrate stablecoin activity, specifically Tether and Tron, for our sanction analysis. And then basically our long-term goal is to develop a risk rating system for crypto tokens that parallels bond ratings within traditional finance. We also envision regulators and compliance teams to use tools like ours in order to enforce transparency in decentralized systems, in order to even further close the gap between Web3 and traditional oversight. Okay, finally, we have our conclusion and call to action. So basically, just kind of two main areas. My first is the call to action. So, don't let blockchain's complexity push you away. It's actually a lot easier to dive into it than you'd think and learn the tools. I went from, not really knowing anything about blockchain or cryptocurrency to simulating Python blocks, parsing 4 million Bitcoin transactions, and aligning them with Russian missile strike data. So if I was able to do that in a semester, I really think that it's totally possible for others who are interested in the area to do it as well. And then I guess really the other second kind of conclusion is that crypto, it's not the Wild West. It's not completely lawless. It's basically a frontier. We should think of it like a frontier that needs to be mapped, regulated, and better understood. So rather than just exploring it, we need to make an active effort to make these crypto markets and to make blockchain safer, smarter, and more transparent for everyone. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much, and yeah.